Hey, it's Brooklyn Lou the Skeptic. Join me on my live. I like to do this because I want to open up my channel to dialogue, both people who may agree with me, people who don't agree with me, but I want to open up conversation. I want you to be free to join the discussion regardless of what you want to talk about. And I want to open up my channel as a platform to all different ideas. So I'll be here for a little while. Anyone want to chat, come on in. Gonna post the link. Let's see. Here's the link. There we go. Anyone wants to join live, just hit that link and it should bring you in. When I do a live, I don't prepare any discussion sheets. I have no notes. I don't use a computer to look things up. I just talk. It's right from my memory and my mind. To me, that's a wonderful way to have a decent conversation. I'm not really looking to debate, but I'm always open to a challenge. And most of all, I just want to communicate with people who might find me here. So if you want to pop in, pop in. What have I been thinking about lately? Oh, boy. I don't know. I have political opinions, but that's a whole can of worms in and of itself. Of course, I'm an atheist, so I have opinions based on my atheism. I'm a former evangelical Christian, so I can appreciate that type of dialogue. I have nothing against Christians, but I don't believe in the Christian belief system. And I have my reasons for that. If there's any theists that want to talk and explain why they believe what they believe, my platform is open. You can come on in. Don't be scared. I'm an easygoing guy. And I look forward to talking to people. Hey, Deep State Annex, how you doing? Where you at? It's very late, huh? It's 8 o'clock here in Florida, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard. So what part of the world you in now, Deep State Annex? Always appreciate anyone's confidentiality. There's so much that goes on the internet. People doxing and trying to find out where people live, and it's sick sometimes. But when I ask, it's just to make conversation, and it's generally just to understand. Hey, Linda, how you doing? It was nice to see you here. And please understand, you're in an atheist zone. But this is my way of opening up my channel to anybody who wants to discuss anything. All right. Yeah, Deep State. I know we're cool. Yeah, I think you should do that. And I want you to know, Linda, I heard some bad news about Pastor Kevin's wife and daughter. And I hope everything gets better. I hope things go well. And thanks for stopping by. Yes, I know his faith is strong, and I really do wish the best for him and his family. Tomorrow I was invited to do a hey John, how you doing? I was invited to do a church thing tomorrow at a church in San Jose, California. That should be fun anyway. The pastor invited me to be the guest atheist. So I'll be doing a live stream with a pastor of a church in San Jose. And I'm actually on it. He saw me on YouTube and invited me to do a discussion for the church. That should be fun. Hey, John, thanks for stopping by. Appreciate you. If there's anything you want to chat about, let me know. My chat is always open, so I'm willing to crimes. Yeah, that's for sure. Faith lasts until it doesn't anymore. Very true statement. For some, longer than others. Some people's faith goes on and some people lose it. I don't think faith is a good way to figure out what is true. That's for sure. Too many people, they feel that if they believe something, that makes it true. And unfortunately, that's just false. You can believe something and it may be true and it may not be true. So just believing it doesn't make it true. Yeah. John, the thing is that people read their book, but they're reading their book having it interpreted by other human beings, and they're getting different theology based on their books, right? And very few people read the book cold and for themselves without having the input of other people. Yes. If you read the book yourself and determine something on your own, I have much respect for you. But when you read the book and you just take other people's commentary about it and you ask other people what it means, kind of diminishing your reading of the book. It's more like you're being told what the book means. And that gets frustrating. I do like to talk about the Bible, but I like to talk about the Bible for what it says, not necessarily the different versions of it that are taught within Christendom. I like to talk about what it actually does say. Linda, no. No. I don't tell anyone to accept what I believe. Okay? Anyone who watches my channel knows that I want people to think for themselves. Right? I offer my opinions and my thoughts, but I never tell people what they need to think, because that would be wrong, wouldn't it? So I don't do that. Yeah, it does say what it says. That's why I personally like when people take out the scripture and say, this is what it says. I mean, that's acceptable to me. But very rarely do people do that, right? I mean, they're normally saying, this is what someone told me this means, and this is what, this old saint said it means, and that's it's not quite the same. And then, John, you and I both probably know that once it becomes a question of interpretation, we get all different interpretations of the same verses. And that becomes very strange. Pastor Kevin doesn't do. I heard someone today say Jesus said to throw out the Old Testament. That BS. He said the opposite. Yeah, I know. Jesus never said to throw out the Old Testament. Right? Jesus said he came not to abolish the law, but to fulfill the law, and that not a jot or tittle of the law would pass away. So yes, today the Bible says you ought to be following the law, but that's reading the text for what it says. And we have interpretations of what Paul said. A lot of Christian theology is based on what Paul said versus what Jesus said. And that's an interesting dynamic right there. Because Paul kind of gives a different theology than Jesus sometimes. Jesus is the word, the truth, and the life. Okay. It is interesting that there appears to be a theology based on Paul and a New Testament theology based on Jesus, and they're not identical. Yeah, lots of people do say they read the book, but they rather follow charlatans like Kat Kerr and Robin Bullocks. That's an example of two fraudulent fake charlatans making money off of the backs of hardworking Christians. It's insane. Very insane. But Christians like to support charlatans. I mean, that's part of the history of the religion. They've always supported charlatans. And I don't think they want to, but they're easily duped. And we see that right up till today, where Christians in this country are following charlatans and supporting fake ministries. Hands on the screen. I feel something going on out there. Yes, Linda. Not all Christians follow charlatans, but a lot do. Millions do. Oh, boy. Just so anyone in now let it go. Right. Let's just say Linda is someone I know personally in the real life. Very, very good person. Christian. But definitely don't agree and don't believe the same things. Hey, John, let me ask you a question, because I follow you, totally, and believe believe exactly like you do. All right, these are charlatans, but some charlatans don't know they're charlatans, right? I do think that they're very sincere people who truly believe what they're telling people. And I don't put them in that category. I look at them as true believers. And then charlatans, to me, they don't even believe what they're saying. They just say it because it's a way to profit. And I think there's a difference. And the charlatans, they show their colors pretty fast, right? But a true believer, they actually do believe what they're saying. Yeah, Trump is a charlatan. That's for sure. But there's another example of what I see is that Christians often are taken by charlatans. So Trump managed to convince Christians that he's going to represent them. Imagine that. Hey, Ambushed, how you doing? Appreciate you stopping by. And I sense that you're working hard. So that's awesome. Keep up the good work. Yeah, John, it's kind of unbelievable, isn't it, that Christians would have turned out the vote, and by like 85% of Christians voted for a convicted felon who has no characteristics of anybody good, let alone a god. Trump is a big charlatan. Yes. Nice. You got to document that move on your channel, Ambush. At least, keep us informed. Yeah, that's really interesting too. The Jeffrey Epstein connection, which is nothing new. Okay. Christians knew that Trump was very good friends with Jeffrey Epstein, and they knew that Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile. But it didn't matter, did it? Just amazing. Just amazing. I don't know if anyone in this audience is aware, but Jeffrey Epstein, after he got arrested the first time for young underage girl prostitution charges, he was very close to many evangelical leaders. I'm not sure if people remember that, but I do remember that. He was popular in the evangelical community. So much for good judgment, right? I mean, imagine the people out there that are so naive as to think Trump had nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. You gotta laugh, right? You gotta laugh. And Linda, I appreciate Frank. If you ever do talk about me, please tell him that I care for him and his family. Even though obviously we don't believe the same things, but I do always want the best for them. Yep. John, you you got it right. Trump has been a criminal since the late 70s, as far as I know. Right? The fact that he could dupe Christian people into thinking that he has their best interest in mind, that is one of the most astonishing things that I see. It's like completely bonkers to think that Donald Trump is the man to lead America with integrity and Christian values. I say that I'm more Christian than Donald Trump is, and I'm an atheist. Yes, it is the Twilight Zone. And that's the thing that, I mean, it boggles my mind to such an extent that it just keeps my head shaking. It's like, really? Donald Trump? And then when the Christians say they voted for Donald Trump, right, as an atheist, I'm just like, whoa. It's like, my gosh, they have lost their minds. Why would I believe anything that they say? Because if their judgment is so bad as to believe that Donald Trump is good for America and represents Christian values, then what else could they possibly be wrong about? Everything. Yeah. Hey, Captive Desk. Nice to see you here. Appreciate you coming by. You know, I read about Islam more years ago, and I don't really totally get into Islam because in America, it's not Islam that is the primary religious thought. But yeah, of course, Islam is nuts. Yep. One thing that always strikes me about Islam versus Christianity is when I was a Christian, I used to think of Islam as being so violent, so negative, so atrocious. And I never turned that lens to my own beliefs. And I never turned that lens to the Bible, because what is in the Bible is pretty much just as bad as some of the things in the Quran, right? But a good Islamic person, they ignore the bad and they focus on the good, because there is some good in the Quran as well. And that's why religion should never be the basis of judging a person, because there's good and bad in all people. All people groups have good and bad, including atheists. I mean, atheists can run around acting crazy and doing all kinds of stuff too, just as well as the Christians and the Muslims and the Jews. And it's just human. There's some good human beings that try to do the right thing, and there are bad human beings that try to do the bad stuff. And to base a person upon what they believe, I just think is wrong. I don't judge someone for what they believe. I don't even care what they believe. Do they treat people well? Are they decent? And I'm not looking for perfection, but are they decent human beings? That's good enough for me. I don't care what they believe. But why do some people care what I believe? That's the question that I can't figure out. The Christians who come on my channel left and right and think it's their thing in life to tell someone like me what I need to believe. It's very strange, very strange. John, I know it too. Hey, Luke, how you doing? Yeah, I know religion can make people become dangerous. That's for sure. That's a proven thing. I mean, yeah, all right. Religion with certain people can make them out of their minds. They can lose their minds over religion, But I don't think that's all people. Yeah, I don't think atheism makes anyone dangerous, but an atheist could have different ideologies that can make them dangerous. I could be an atheist and I can be involved in some radical political group that wants to unalive certain people, and maybe I think it's my duty to do so. I mean, and I could be an atheist and fall into that. So atheists can be crazy too. But I will say the people that I meet, generally the atheists are more rational, and they're generally more caring about human beings versus what people believe. So, I relate to atheists, I would say, more. Yeah. The stats seem to indicate that atheists commit less crime per capita than the religious folks do. I've read stats and research on that in the past, and that also is something that, like, religious people, they don't like to hear that, because they think that, well, when you become Christian, let's say, you're going to become such a wonderful person, right? But stats don't really bear that out, because in this country, most of the crime is committed by people who would identify as Christian, and a much smaller percentage is committed by people who would identify as atheist, and that is per capita. It's not just in a gross number, but it's actually coordinated by the number of people who are atheist and the number of people who identify as Christian. So it's pretty telling that Christianity as a whole does not make people better or more moral, given the different categories of morality that we could look at. The thing about atheism, John, is I do think atheism in and of itself is not enough to, let's say, live a good life, because it's just a lack of belief in a God. So atheism is not going to make someone fabulous or anything. The only positive I see is atheism generally is going to have you think rationally. And when it does that, it can improve your life. But atheism just in and of itself isn't enough. You need more than that. Yeah, and I will say for my life personally, being evidence-based has improved my life. So I could definitely say that. And John, that story of David and his wives and the punishment for his sin against Bathsheba, there were two major punishments, and both of them are inappropriate. One was that his own David's son would perish for the sins of his father. And the other one is that David's wives would be abused in front of the town. I mean, imagine that, right? Imagine that. I don't believe the story's real, by the way, but if it was real, my gosh. I mean, his wives are abused in front of the whole town, essayed in front of the whole town. I mean, and that's supposed to be a punishment for the sin that David did. Oh my gosh. What a concept of justice. What a crazy concept of justice. Woo. Christian justice is something that makes no sense whatsoever. Hey, left-handed Jedi. Yeah, I do think that's a good thing too. No fear of hell. For sure. For sure. Now, I don't know if Christians, when you're a Christian, you don't really relate to that, because a fear of hell is kind of included in the whole thing. But yeah, as an atheist, I have no fear of hell whatsoever. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's irrational fear. Kind of, I think it should be treated with therapy, the fear of hell. If you actually suffer from that, I think it's a good idea to go to therapy, because it can paralyze you mentally and torment you mentally. So yeah, I think that's an awful thing, a terrible thing, the fear of hell. And what kind of a loving person, meaning God, would send somebody to eternal torment? What kind of a person would do such a thing? Wow. Yeah, left-handed Jedi, I feel for you. And I feel for your mom. It's terrible. I'm glad. I hear a lot of atheists struggle with that even after they leave the belief system. And I consider myself fortunate that I don't struggle with that fear, because it would be a horrible thing to think that you're going to be tormented forever and ever for mainly a lack of belief in something, or every little thing you ever did wrong, that you're now worthy of eternal torment. What a horrible, horrible belief. Hey, Gio, how you doing? Nice to see you. Christian justice is driven by divine command. Absolutely. That's what I see. That's what I see all the time. If God says it's okay, it's okay. And if God says it's bad, it's bad. Even when God says something obviously bad is good, most Christians will say, "Oh, well, it's good because God said it." And I say they don't have morality of their own, is how I put it. They're given a morality. Okay. And then on top of that, they accuse you of having subjective morality, right? As though that's a horrible thing, right? They say, "Oh, you have subjective morality," right? But their morality is completely subjective, because they don't have any of their own. And if the God says something is good, then it's good. If the God says something is bad, it's bad. And it's completely subjective regarding the mind of this God. But boy, they'll hammer you on having subjective morality as though it's some sort of horrible thing. Hey, G Hammer. Yeah, left-handed Jetty, right on. Right on. I mean, I like to think about the nature of God, And of course, as a Christian, I was conditioned to think the nature of God was all about love. Then when you leave the religion and your mind is open, you start seeing the things that God does and the way that God apparently thinks, and you come away with a different conclusion. Isn't that weird? Isn't that odd? Like you could totally think that God is perfect and loving and all just and all powerful and all everything, the superstar of all superstars. Then, when you get out of the box and you start looking at it objectively, you realize, holy crap. Really? One of the things I've been thinking about recently is God before he created the heavens and the earth. The character of God, the abstract concept that we have of God before he created the heavens and earth. What was he doing? That's a question that goes pretty deep. And why was he so triggered by human beings? Being all-knowing, being all-powerful, self-sustaining, and yet the slightest infraction really triggers that God, doesn't it? Gee, when you start looking at it historically, things start lining up. What is it that lines up? And as an atheist and a skeptic, I don't think everything in the Bible is false. So kind of like that, that's a mistake when Christians think someone like me necessarily thinks everything is false, because I don't. There's some truth in it, but there's a whole lot of falsehood too. And there's mostly it's mythology. You know, if I had to summarize the Bible as a whole, as a genre of literature, most of it is mythology. So, and can there be truth? You know, pearls of truth in mythology? Yeah, it can be. You know, there's some things that are taught out of the Bible that are profound. Yeah, but there's a whole lot of BS in there too. It's made a hierarchy. It does get kind of humorous thinking about these things, right? That there are people running around in 2025 who think the earth is 6,000 years old. Kind of humorous, isn't it? Oh my gosh. Yeah, that whole young earth thing, that's a cult within a cult. And I must say, one of the more frustrating things about that is they come on because the creationists really study their material. So they have all this stuff memorized and they study all this stuff, all of which is garbage, but they study it well. And then they will encounter somebody who doesn't have an incredible education in these various scientific disciplines, and they seek to confuse them. And that's their strategy, to confuse them. All the while, everything they're talking about makes no sense if you have a higher education in these fields. But for someone like me, I could fall for such a thing. All right. I don't now, but in the past, I was very vulnerable to that when I was a Christian. I never made up my mind when I was a Christian whether the earth was about 6,000 years old or 13.5 billion or whatever. I never really made up my mind because I didn't know. But I was vulnerable to the young earth creationist thing. It was only after studying evolution, and this is about 12 years ago, that I realized that no, it's impossible, this young earth thing. Hey, Phil, the Fisher of Men. Now, I'm glad to see you. Thank you for coming by, for real. Appreciate it immensely. And I read your comments. Believe me, I think you see. And I try to comment on all of them. But my definition of Christian. Well, I have a definition of Christian, Phil, but I wouldn't say my definition of Christian would fit everybody's definition of Christian, because even that is debated. What is a Christian, right? But my definition of a Christian would be somebody who believes that Jesus is both Lord and Savior of the world and of human beings, and that he came down to earth, died, was crucified, and was resurrected so that we, human beings, could have eternal life. So in a nutshell, that's what I believe a Christian is. But again, that's not going to encompass all definitions of what a Christian is, because if you talk to Christians, they're going to disagree on what a Christian is. Also brings to mind the biblical definition. It's pretty much disciples of Jesus Christ would be called Christians. The book of Acts says there was a time, was the first time that they were called Christians. Another way that the book of Acts calls Christians is the way, right? But that's about it, how I think about what a Christian is. It all comes down to what you believe. Yeah, Phil, disciple of Christ. I mean, I guess that's. I know when I was a Christian, I would say I'm a disciple of Christ. I follow Jesus Christ, is what I would say. Phil, the thing is, which I touch upon in some of our, back and forths in comments. The thing is that the word Christian, just think of that word and what it means. It means different things to different people. And that in and of itself is a problem. It's a problem. When you have to ask someone, if I'm talking to a Christian, I have to ask specific questions to find out what they believe. They can't just tell me they're a Christian because I don't know what type of Christian are they. All right. So it's like I got to ask specifics. Right. And then I get an idea. Okay, you believe this, you believe that, you believe this. Then I can form an understanding of what they are saying when they declare themselves a Christian. Hey, Phil, I thank you for coming by. Okay, I know we have a lot of fun. And I want you to know that. All right. When we go back and forth on comments, I have a good time with it, and I hope you do too. All right. And if you ever want to come on and chat, you're always invited. Exactly, Gio. They definitely can't all be correct. They could be all wrong. That's what I think. I think they're all wrong. Have a good night, Phil. So, this thing about God having created man, and I've come to understand it's the opposite. Man created God, and not just one God. Man created lots of gods, right? I mean, that's just a fact. I mean, man has created a lot of different gods. But it's definitely striking how the God of the Bible is so human-like when it comes to emotions. He displays the same emotions as a human being, as a man would have. Doesn't make sense to me. If he really was all powerful, if he really was all knowing, if he was completely self-sustaining, I don't see any reason for him to have these human emotions like weeping and yelling and getting angry. And Doesn't seem very godlike to me. Yes, left-handed jetty. That's what I see. Humans created God and gods in our image. It definitely makes more sense to me. I love it. The white Jesus. Oh, gosh. The white Anglo-Saxon Jesus. The European Jesus. Jesus was a Palestinian. Don't think he had the blue eyes. I doubt it. There's this verse in the Bible. Shoot, I don't remember where. Probably is Revelation, but it describes Jesus's hair as being like wool. Interesting, right? Wool, not straight. Wool. With hair like wool, like an afro, I guess. Oh, it's so absurd, like how people they create Jesus in their own, their own mind. They have visions of Jesus, and it's all something they concoct in their own mind. I used to do that. So I'm going to describe the Jesus I used to see when I was a fundamentalist Christian. I used to see Jesus as a rather skinny, tall, built man, black hair, green eyes, tunic, sandals, and a white robe tied up the midsection. And that was the Jesus I used to see. I guess it was a white Jesus. Gotta laugh, right? Gotta laugh. John, I've heard of that. I don't know what passage that is, but yes, I've heard of that. And I do remember, because I'm 62 years old, and I remember hearing, and it's probably still out there, but I don't hear it much anymore. But I remember hearing Christians talking about the curse of Ham. And I remember hearing that this was a curse upon Black people, the curse of Ham. Now, I must say I don't hear that anymore, but I bet it's still out there. But I used to hear that when I was young. The curse of Ham. Southern Baptist Convention was founded on what? Oh, racism. Yeah, racism played a big role in some of the American Christianity, for sure. And it still does. Still plays a role. Yes, Gio, the human mind, in my opinion, wants to visualize things or imagine things. So when you say Jesus, I believe that the human mind creates some sort of an image in their mind. And I would think that it definitely would be culturally impacted, you know. So if you're a white guy with blue eyes, you might see that European white Jesus in your mind. Yes, we visualize things familiar to us. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. And God is a concept. God is an abstract concept in our minds. That's why there's different gods, you know, because it's a concept in the human mind. Where do we get that concept? We're indoctrinated. We hear about it. We read about it. We're told about it. And that forms a concept. It's not real, but it's a concept. And if you keep telling yourself over and over and over that it's real, you eventually believe it. And if you keep telling yourself over and over and over and over again, you eventually will die for that belief. And that's just how the human mind works. Yeah, that's a big weakness in the belief system, John. You have to accept um, Jesus as your Lord to be saved. Very bad weakness in this belief system because there are so many people that have no ability to even think about Jesus as their Lord. Babies born in different countries, born to different religious parents. If you're born Hindu to religious Hindu people, I doubt that that child is going to conceptualize Jesus as their Lord and Savior. And according to Christianity, they're shit out of luck. Shit out of luck. Hey, Ducks Y, how you doing? Thanks for stopping by. I'm doing okay. Thin and getting fatter. Well, I hope that's a good thing. I'm okay. I'm not getting fatter though. I think I've been losing some weight recently, but I've had my share of fatness and still have some going on. Hey, good night, John. Thanks for coming by. Really appreciate you. Hey, I appreciate everyone coming by. Right? My channel, I want to be a place where people can chat and have open dialogue. And I invite anyone to come on, you know. And hey, thanks. I could use as many subscribers as possible. I do want to grow this channel. All right. I started this channel with no idea what I was doing. I still don't know a lot about how to do this, but I'm getting better at it little by little. And I want to grow a presence because I want my voice to get out there. But it's not just about me. I mean, I want to build a platform of free thinkers. And you don't have to think like me. You know, I don't know how many people were here in the beginning of my chat. My ex-wife was on. She might even, if you're out there, Linda, but my channel is not to put people down. It's to explore and to think about serious issues going on in the world and to work through these things, you know. You know, I've heard of breakfast taco. I think I've watched a few videos. I don't remember what videos I watched, but yeah, I've seen the content out there. Ducks, why are you atheist or theist? I'm making an assumption that you're probably atheist, but I could be wrong. Well, we have a lot in common, Ducks. I am atheist. I am secular. Spiritual, maybe just a little bit. But it's not spiritual in the sense that I believe in spirits or anything. You know, I I had an encounter a little while back with a chaplain, and I took this as a real compliment. My mom was passing away. People who have followed me here know that she passed away about 6 months ago, but she was living in my house in hospice for a year. So I had a chaplain that would come by and he would see my mom, pray, you know, the things that chaplains do. And I used to talk to him, and he never expected that I was an atheist, but it came out in conversation. And he said, but you're so spiritual. So I honestly took that as a really good compliment. See, Gene, what I don't like distinguish is between like thoughts that I have and what people call spiritual. Because I feel I'm spiritual if it means that I have thoughts, um, that they could be even psychedelic in nature, because I smoke pot. So I could have some pretty way out thoughts, but I believe that that sort of thing or spirituality, I see that as part of my brain, part of my human mind. So that's how I would call myself spiritual, is that I think a lot of deep thoughts. And if that's spiritual, I'm spiritual. But yeah, when people say spiritual, they can mean a lot of different things. For me, again, it's all in the mind for me. And if I take time and I lay quietly and I let my mind flow and I do a guided meditation, is that spiritual? If it is, I do that, but I don't look at it as spiritual entities and stuff like that. I look at it as a product of my own mind. You know, G, when you say you've experienced the spirit world during meditation, that's kind of what I'm talking about. But did you think it was like something outside of your own thoughts? Because I don't. I think it's part of our own thoughts. And I don't know how many of you ever do psychedelics, but I'm pretty much a pothead. I don't do other psychedelics, but that's something I do all the time, every day. And there are times when I could do smoke cannabis and just let my mind drift, and the flow of thoughts are amazing. So that's a spiritual experience to me. Yeah, I'm a weed smoker, but I don't do other ones. I don't do LSD. Never have. Don't think I ever will. Don't do ayahuasca. Don't do any of that stuff. Mushrooms, never. But you could drift away mentally smoking weed. You know, I kind of think I do every night. You know, It's just I don't attribute those experiences and those thoughts that are going on in my brain as being supernatural. I think of it as part of nature and part of the natural person that I am. That's how I smoke weed. I smoke weed after my day is up. I'm not a daytime or morning person. I'm a late night, before bed, kick back, put on some TV, some music, smoke a bowl, and drift away. That's my thing. Brojo's and 420 Cafe. I got to check that out. I got to remember to look at that, Gio. One time I was on a live stream here and I was, well, maybe twice. I was smoking before I came on, but that's really unusual. Normally I'm not. I'm weird enough without, strange enough without. Yeah, G Hammer. I look at that as just respecting the weed. I mean, I don't feel I'm 100% alert when I'm on weed, so I wouldn't. I respect it enough not to, let's say, do it and drive. That ain't my thing. I'm never going to do that. All right. But when I'm free and I'm done and I'm home, that's my time. You know. Hey, Ducksway, Ducksway, thanks for stopping by. And yeah, connect with Breakfast Tacos. I would love to do something with him. I know he has a wonderful channel. Have a good night. Hey, G Hammer, gotta ask you, indica or sativa? And Geo, do you ever partake in the devil's lettuce? You ever partake or no? I've heard of Star Dog. I may have done that strain at one time. I've been now smoking for about 10 years and I've done so many strains. So I think I did Star Dog, but not often. I don't remember what it was. Tangy Dream, I have done. I like that. I remember enjoying that. Nice, Geo. Gotta love it. Me too. Overall, I'm a sativa person, but I don't always have the sativa, so I'll do indica and I'll do hybrids, of course. Probably my favorite would be a sativa leaning hybrid. That's like my favorite type. But I do what's around for me, so, but sativa is my go-to as well. That would be my favorite type. Hey, I got a little secret that I learned recently about cannabis. Um, Here's the thing I recently encountered. It was I took a trip to Texas and I stopped at a place and I got legal cannabis, but not in a state that had dispensaries. It was in the smoke shop. And I found it's available in a smoke shop here in Florida as well. And it's very different, but I kind of think it's pretty good. It's called THCA, which is THC acid, and it comes on a flower like any other cannabis, but it's totally legal because it does not have THC. It has THC acid. Now, it's the silliest legal loophole that I've encountered in a long time because it's totally legal, but it turns into THC when it's heated up. So when you light it and smoke it, it turns into THC. And I mean, I've been doing cannabis a long time, and I'll tell you what, it's pretty good. I don't really notice a difference. It's just like smoking other illegal cannabis, and yet it's completely legal in the state of Florida because having it has no THC in it. So there's that loophole that it's perfectly legal to buy in a store. But it's definitely turns into THC when you heat it up, smoke it. So what a big loophole that is. But it's actually really not bad. I don't mind it. And I think I'm pretty picky. So that's called THCA. And they call it a hemp product. That's how they get around the whole legality thing. You're smoking hemp, not marijuana, although it's the same plant. See, there's all those little loopholes that they get around. And I don't know how long it's going to be legal, but it's totally legal. And the place I go to, they even they gave me a lab report telling you exactly what it is. And when you smoke it, it pretty much does the same thing. So, yeah. I guess it depends on the state also, if it's legal or not legal, but it's THCA and it's on a hemp product. So it smokes just like any other smoke. And it's perfectly legal to sell. I'm not positive if it's perfectly legal to smoke, but you go in your own home. No one's gonna break into your house and see you smoking the hemp. It was very interesting to me. THCA, acid, and the acid that turns into good old THC when it's burned. It's like the loophole is too good to be true. Now, if I lived in a state that was legal recreationally, I mean, I would just be walking in the store, but over here it's legal medicinally. And I do that, but sometimes it's like I'm out and I just want to grab something. And I was really happy to find out there's something I can grab that's perfectly legal and pretty much seems to do the same thing. In fact, I'm going to do some of that THCA tonight. I'm not sure about North Carolina. I'm really not sure. I know in my state, Florida, it's legal and there's dispensaries everywhere. I mean, I got like 5 dispensaries in my town, but that is medical dispensary. It's not recreational yet here in Florida. But when I've traveled, I went to California and totally legal recreationally. I know Colorado is the same way, where you can just walk into the dispensary as long as you're 18 years old. I think it's 18, maybe 21. I'm not sure because I'm way too old to be carded. But you just show your ID that you're over that age and you can buy whatever you want in a recreational state. Which I also think is silly, is that it depends on the state. I kind of think it should be a national thing. I mean, you could literally like be in one state, buy the cannabis, smoke the cannabis, and then you go over to the next state over across the border and all of a sudden it's illegal. That doesn't make sense to me. I think it should be straight across the board all around America. Whatever the policy is, I think it should be federal. Yeah, G, in as far as like cannabis, yeah, each state is sets its own rules. And it's kind of I don't go for that. Because literally, I travel and I could be totally legal in one state and illegal in another. And I just don't see the benefit of that. I think they should make one ruling for the entire country. Just my opinion. Yeah. So let me post this link in one more time. Hey, I just posted a link. If anyone wants to come in and chat in the stage, that's fine. I'm going to get off pretty soon, but I wanted to post it one last time if anyone wants to jump in, have a short conversation. Any theists? Always my special guests, the theists. Well, anyway, I think I'm going to go. Thank you for stopping by. Always feel free to come by, just chat. That's why I'm doing this. I want to be open, and I want my channel to be open to people who believe all different things, and also to discuss anything and everything. So thank you. If you haven't subscribed, please do. And see you next time. Have a good night.